Cheers, everyone. Hey there, cruisers old and new. We have an amazing show for you all tonight. Our guest is responsible for the shows and the entertainment on the Carnival fleet. Plus, he is going into transitioning into a new role with Carnival Studio. We find out what that is and how it will affect your cruise. Jess is back with the tour of the brig and the inside of the morgue as well. There's a chilling story about one cruiser that cruised even after they were dead. My co-host Shally is here, and she's going to show you how you can fit 86 pairs of shoes into one cruise carry-on, and the best way to pack for a 7-day cruise. Our photo of the week comes from the Carnival Magic Facebook group, and of course another crazy complaint form, this from guest services. Stay tuned and have your questions ready because this is Cruise Week TV Live. Hey cruisers, I'm Matt, and together with my co-host Shally, we try to help give you fun information about cruising and let you ask questions for our guests to make you better prepared for your cruise. I have only been on crew cruises now, but my co-host Shally has been on many more, and our guests are experts in their fields, and we let them ask questions so we get to learn all together. Adam Hopeppner is our guest this week, and he works behind the scenes at Carnival HQ in Miami, but he has a role that affects all of you when you go on the ships. He organizes the entertainers on board and is opening up a brand new Carnival Studios. We'll hear all about that in a moment, but first I want to tell you about our sponsor. We have talked in the past about the benefits of using a travel agent to book your cruise. Have you ever checked out goodmemoriestravel.com yet? You get the same great rates as booking yourself, plus you may get onboard credit or a custom reward. It's like cash to spend on your cruise. They enjoy planning and helping you with weddings, honeymoons, and everything else. Debbie with goodmemoriestravel.com can work directly with the cruise line to organize onboard parties, events, and wedding services, which is one less thing you have to worry about. They are fully licensed by CLIA, which stands for Cruise Lines International Association, and they have also been earmarked by Disney, so you know you'll be getting great personal service, plus no waiting to get a hold of them when you call. You'll call their phones, and your travel agent will pick up. No voice routing or long message trees to navigate through. They also specialize in handling every aspect of your group cruise, family getaway, or that family reunion you've been wanting to plan. Imagine letting someone else do all the work while you get to relax. Debbie can also take card points, so if you have, let's say, an American Express reward card, you can use those points to pay for your next cruise. Debbie with goodmemoriestravel.com also plans various Christian-related group cruises. Their God is Good group cruise is coming up, so be sure to check that out on their website. They handle, of course, cruises for all cruise lines like Carnival, Royal, MSC, Norwegian, and more all over the world. Debbie Smith is part of the cruise planners, so give Debbie a call to see what they can do for you. It doesn't cost you a thing to look them up and get your best rate. Debbie can be reached by phone at 321-338-2953, or of course through their website at goodmemoriestravels.com, and let them know you heard about them on cruiseweek.tv. So we go behind the scenes at Carnival this week and talk to Adam about the role in his company and just what he does. Adam, welcome to the show.
Hello,
how's it going?
Thank you. Welcome to you. It's going wonderful. Thanks for having me.
It's so great to have you. So, what do you do? Like, what's your role exactly? Let's start there.
Well, currently I kind of have two roles within Carnival. The first role is the one that I am actually transitioning out of, which is casting and booking specialist for entertainment technicians. That is the position that recruits, onboards, schedules all of the new hired entertainment technicians, as well as all of the returning technicians. With the 25 ships we have in the fleet, roughly 200 people in the technical department at any one time out in the fleet, doing all of the technical work on the ships. For all of the production shows, the comedy shows, all of the entertainment experiences that we have on board. Now, going forward, I'm actually just recently moved into the position of the Carnival Studios Facilities Associate. And that position is responsible for managing the residential living of our team members while they're shoreside in Davie, Florida, just north of Miami, at our new production facility that officially opens this Wednesday at a formal ribbon cutting ceremony. And this is a transition for the whole entire entertainment department. So we are no longer designing, rehearsing, preparing our shows on board our vessels anymore. We actually will be doing all of that work in this very large complex. There's 8 music studios in this complex, 5 rehearsal stages, a development stage, all catered towards the individual classes of ships. So there's a studio for our fantasy class, there's a studio for our dream class, there's a studio for the spirit class, on up to the Vista class, where we also will be bringing Horizon out in 2018. And it is full LED walls, full lighting rig, audio rig, so they really get the experience that they're going to get on board here on land before we move everything to the ship for the actual contract that the performers will have on board. It's a wonderful project for us, a very large project. I manage, again, like I said, the residential portion of it, and then we have a studio supervisor, Anne, that kind of manages all of the studio operations. And within the whole thing, everybody within Carnival, not just an entertainment department, legal, medical, payroll, has been helping kind of with this transition. That this started kind of as a very little seed 5 years ago, and has continued to grow, and it's finally here. And we're all very excited for the future and what we can now do with a dedicated space for our entertainment operations source side.
So do you think that being able to move everything onto land, does that make the acts a lot easier to prepare for? Or do you think that doing it on the ship makes it a bit easier for the crew members to be able to kind of get used to the waves, the rocking, everything else? What do you think, or what have you heard from the staff so far?
Well, we just last week moved our first cast into the studio. We have currently the Ecstasy, Elation, and the Paradise cast in the studio. Freedom is joining us this week. There's pros and cons to every situation, but the pros for having this dedicated facility are definitely outweighs any of the cons. You know, there are the things that you naturally would have to get used to on a ship, the movement, the overall lifestyle. But having the facility really gives us the opportunity, because again, these studios will have the actual floor plots, they'll have the actual set pieces, costumes, and all of the technology. So it really will be an opportunity for our performers, our technicians, our musicians, to have that where it's not necessarily on the spotlight, where you're on a ship and you're competing for rehearsal time in the lounges while we have guests on board. That's one of the biggest challenges we have had, was with the guest experience Carnival wants to provide, we lose a lot of our rehearsal time in our lounges. So it does prohibit a lot of time and the repetition that the performers require to nail these shows. They still will have a transition period on board for approximately a week. But that's versus, a 4 to 6 week cast change where you would have 2 cast on board. In a lot of cases, 2 tech teams, 2 music teams. So again, the pros for it is it's a dedicated facility. We're not going to necessarily be competing with anything else while we do this transition between cast and entertainment offerings. Plus, it allows us to be more creative. We have a development studio that's specifically for the designing of new shows. Carnival does create the initial concept for all of our shows and works with worldwide directors and designers for all of them. So this will give us the opportunity to even expand a lot more with what we're offering to our guests.
So with having the studio there, are the performers still able to perform on the ship for practices, or is their practice time cut short a little bit just because they're able to do a bit more on land now?
It is a shortened period. The cast will sign on with the tech team, with the musicians, all on the same day. And then essentially the musicians, in most cases, will be signing off the same day the other musicians are signing on. So there's not much of a transition there. For the performers, they will be on board approximately a week with the other cast before they leave at the end of their contracts. Technician, there's a 2-week handover period. So it does shorten it down. However, with the additional time and the actual dedicated time shoreside, they're actually going into these shows where they're performing their first show in front of a live audience with a lot more time, actually being able to rehearse than they would if they were doing this on board. The big thing why we have that transition period of a week for the cast is so we can bring the cast on board and prepare costumes and other things that are tailored towards the individual on board. We don't currently have a costume set for what the new cast. It's all the costumes are on board that the current cast are using. So, we'll be turning on, in some cases, for production shows with costumes within a week's period of time, so the new cast can get all these shows open.
So we have a couple of questions coming in from, one of them is from Carissa Colley on Facebook. She asks, does the movement of the ship cause any issues for the performers?
It depends on the severity. I will be honest with you, being on the ships for 5 years, the teams always make a decision as a group, whether that's to continue the show, to do a modified version, to ultimately cancel the show. With our new productions within Playlist, the 2.0 shows, they're so-called, the ones with the LED walls. There are also concert versions of those that are designed if there's a safety concern due to the movement of the ship. It's not just the performers. It's there's a lot of technical aspects that are unable to be performed when the ships are moving to a certain degree. But as the people that have cruised on our different classes of ships, you'll see with technology the ships are actually being able to be stabilized a lot more. So sometimes you pull away from port and you don't even realize you have left on one of the newer classes of ships, just because the technology that is in the engine department and the marine department allows us. Again, you're going to get the bad weather. You're on a moving vehicle, but the team unites and makes the decision, and we stand by that with each person. So if we make this decision to go with a show, and there is an issue where we maybe have to stop halfway through, it's a unified front because we're looking at the safety of everybody involved in the performance.
It was really cool when we went on the Carnival Triumph. We were able to get an interview with some of the performers who were in the magic show, as well as some different dance routines. And they were talking about a lot of different aspects, and people always want to know about like worst case scenarios, because usually when you're on a cruise, it doesn't come down to like worst case scenario. Usually captains are great about going around storms or everything else. And most of the performers said that if there's ever any issues, we just kind of cut back the act a little bit, where, instead of wearing high heels, we might wear flats, or we might take out a couple different parts that might be a bit too much of an issue. So it seems like no matter what, the show's pretty much going to go on unless it's something drastic that's pretty bad.
Right. And with our productions, they're designed, to give the leading edge first, 5-star experience, but there are always things you can cut, just to still be able to give the overall, the director's intent of the production ultimately. So if that means not allowing a dancer to stand on a chair and instead do the movement on the stage floor, or cut some scenery movements or a scenery piece because of the movement, it's always looked at. And really the technical team that is led by the entertainment director on board, they look at the weather, just like marine operations is continually looking at our itineraries to make sure that we're not sailing into a storm. But if we are aware of something, we monitor it throughout the day. A lot of times, we will possibly reschedule a show for later in the cruise, and just switch up the performance schedules. But there are different things that we can do to make sure that the guests on board aren't missing out on the opportunity to see one of the productions.
Denny Knight on Facebook asked, how often does the cast change?
Our cast changes are typically a 6 months period. The technicians are also on that schedule, where it's usually a 6 to 8 months a time. Musicians are slightly shorter period on board, but overall within entertainment, and that includes youth staff, the host, the social host, we try to keep it right around 6 months, just because of obviously the trying lifestyle and to keep everybody fresh. And
Hmm.
it's just, that's where it kind of sits, that the time where it's, overall that we can still provide, the energy within our performers, because after a while you burn yourself out and you need to take a little bit of time to
Hmm.
recover.
So it seems that each ship usually has a couple different staples, a magic show, a comedy show, and a couple other different shows that I'm kind of seeing like every single time. How do you decide which acts go on the ship and which ones don't? And are there any other staple acts that I'm missing out? Because I'm probably, maybe.
We have a team. I mean, the entertainment department shoreside, has an operations team that they literally will go through the demographics of our guest on board. Age, race, religion, anything you can think of. That is specific to a home port. A Galveston ship is a lot different than a Miami ship, and a Miami
Hmm.
ship's a lot different than a Sydney ship. So we tailor all of our offerings based on where they are coming from, as far as the home port is, and as far as the itinerary. Different lengths of cruises. Will also not allow us to perform the typical like 7-day cruise. It's four production shows.
Hmm.
A different comedian every night. So we have a team that's pretty much what they look at. What are our guest expectations? What do they want? And we have such a wide variety of entertainment productions, a portfolio, so you may, that we pick and choose of what's going to work. And sometimes it's trial and error. Sometimes things work, and sometimes things don't work.
Hmm.
And that goes down to even sometimes the start of the show. Carnival typically is on 8:15, 10:15 showtime. But again, some demographics like a 7 and 9. So we really reach out to and try and figure out what the guest expectations are, and what they're really looking for. And that's, I mean, down to everything, what the set list are for the musicians, what we play on the Seaside Theater. It's a constantly evolving process for us to make sure that we're giving the guests what they want.
Hmm. So you talk about giving the guests what they want. Is there anything that guests want that you're not allowed to do? For example, like Magic Might script shows or something like that? Because I know the demographics can kind of vary quite a lot, and if you have, let's say, more younger crowd or maybe a much older crowd, they might not want this. So what are the guidelines for choosing acts that are just like taboo almost?
Well, again, Carnival, we really design all of our entertainment offerings. We're not like the other cruise lines where we're buying rights and royalties to perform a show on board. But again, we are a family cruise line. That's what Carnival Cruise Line stands for. We shoot towards the middle-aged crowd to with the families. So we understand that we need to offer the PG shows, but then at nighttime we need to offer a little more risque stuff, a little
Hmm.
edgier stuff, as far as in our comedy shows. But we definitely make sure the guests are aware of kind of the age group that it fits into. Some things
Hmm.
just aren't appropriate for the small and the younger groups. Some of the comedians, some of the social events, the Love and Marriage show. Sometimes even the hypnotist are, sometimes will go more towards the adults. But we make sure that there's a equal opportunity for entertainment, within the fleet, and within the individual ships for the age groups of, that really are coming on board with us.
I think my favorite show that I've been to is probably the not Love and Marriage, the Adult Scavenger Hunt. I
Oh, yes.
really enjoyed that quite a lot. It's interesting, and they always say, I will never see these people again, so really act out some of your stuff. But if you're yeah, but a lot of people don't usually do a cruise show, so I'm most likely gonna see them again. So it's kind of like a catch-22 where I want to be able to do this, but I don't want them to take a bunch of video and be like, haha, look what I saw the host do.
Hmm.
Like when I'm dancing at
Yeah.
the club at night after a couple
Uh,
drinks.
right, and that's always quite enjoyable. With Carnival in the past, we have our Welcome Aboard show. We now have a new Welcome Aboard show, but the previous Welcome Aboard show a lot of times the cruise director would, make somebody, that Mr. Carnival for the cruise. So whenever they saw that guest throughout the whole cruise, they were, make an acknowledgement of them.
Hmm.
Or even some of the comedians will put in there that, for a guest when they're hypnotized for the rest of the cruise, whenever a guest says, a certain word, they're going to walk around like a chicken. So that's always quite entertaining, for the offerings we have.
Hmm. Definitely have to talk to the hypnotist. Whenever you meet the cruise host of cruiseweek.tv, buy him a drink. Definitely gotta, try to get something in with him. Maybe slip him 20 bucks or something like that. Might save me a couple drinks. So,
Right.
Carissy Colley asks, how does the process work for special concerts on the ships? Do the bands stay for the entire cruise, or do they disembark at a specific port?
Well, there's really two different, as you would say, special cruises. We have our Carnival Live program, where we will bring an act on board while a ship is in port and perform the show. They will then debark the ship and join the next ship coming into that port of call the next day. So we're giving everybody the opportunity to see really quite high notoriety performers on board our ships. But then we also have the portion of the charter cruises where, the ships are essentially rented per se by a group, and their fans will come on board for a cruise, and it's kind of all tailored towards them. And again, that's not just musical acts. I mean, it could be any type of business that would come on board as a large group and charter the ship. So those are kind of where we offer. When we bring Carnival Live on, they do have their technicians that come, but our technicians also support them, and that's the same with charter cruises. When the techs for the charters groups come on board, we are still ultimately on board and responsible for the spaces and the equipment. So we work hand in hand with those industry professionals.
Do you think it's hard to choose different band acts? I know earlier you said that you kind of cater to different ports. When we left the Louisiana port, I noticed that a lot of the singers were usually country or country, more music and everything else. So how do you choose bands for different areas?
Our music development team, they really research what people want. What is working on for entertainment venues shoreside. What are the bars and the clubs and things, the atmosphere, in a certain port of call. So we try to bring that in. And like I said, it's somewhat always a trial and error. We know a Galveston ship is going to be a little bit more country, a little bit more laid back, so we're going to put that kind of music style. Where cruises out of Miami might be more into the actual Caribbean feel, the island music and the island performances like that. And then you'll go to an Alaska cruise where it is essentially it's an older crowd, and they don't want the hip hop and the rock. So we'll bring on more mature performers as fly-ons, singers and vocalists, and make sure that they're getting again what their expectations are. But it's definitely something we continue to monitor because it does change. Demographics, are continually changing, and areas are growing with the popularity of certain things. So we just have to keep looking at that. And a lot of our information comes out from our guest surveys of what they actually are experiencing. Give us suggestions. What are you really looking for?
For those suggestions to give, is that a piece of paper that you get from guest services? Is it an online form, or how would you be able to fill that out exactly?
At the completion of every cruise, within a 1 week period, usually after you debark, Carnival will send you a survey to rate your whole entire experience, not just entertainment, but they will, your food, your ports of calls, shore excursion offerings, and again, down to the productions, how was the playlist cast? How was the musicians? How was, the fly-on acts? And that goes to every guest within, a week and a half of debarking the vessel. And those are very much looked at. Sometimes companies will do surveys and they'll just do it as a formality. But we are always looking through those and looking for the comments from the guests so we can, correct or improve on things that, they're really truly looking for.
Nice. Andros Williams asks, how could you apply for a job in Carnival Entertainment?
If you're interested in our positions in Carnival Entertainment, which would be production cast, the dancers, singers, technicians, musicians, youth staff, entertainment staff, head over to our website, carnivalentertainment.com. There's videos on there to introduce you to the positions, introduce you to ship life, introduce you to Carnival. And then it is also the opportunity to really see what the different positions are. Are there local auditions happening for you musicians or the playlist cast within your area? So that's kind of the hub and central location for all of the information. We also do have Carnival Entertainment Facebook page. So, that's always a good way to stay up on top of what's really happening within the department, and the different offerings that we're creating and developing and rolling out.
So with all of that, what does it normally take to do a tryout exactly? So I know there's a lot of forms and paperwork, but once you get past that, what is your advice for people who make it to tryouts? What would you recommend for them to kind of practice more, or what's advice for them?
Advice for them, we have essentially two different types of application processes. We'll either have an invited audition or an open audition. We're invited, we'll pre-screen you and, watch your video, your demo reels, look at your background, your past experiences, and then invite you to a local audition where we'll, put you out there with the other dancers, singers, musicians, and kind of, see where you're at and where you would really fit. Ultimately, we're building teams at auditions, so we try to match not only your skills and your background, but personalities. A lot of our shows, are just have specific designed positions, a Latin female that we are looking specifically for. So my recommendation for you is to make sure you really research what you're going for as far as the position. Make sure you're preparing what is required for the audition. And really don't try to sell yourself for something that you're not. Go in there and represent yourself for the dancer you are, the singer you are, the technician you are. Because if you don't do that, you're going to fail at your audition, and ultimately you're going to fail, with the success on board. If you ever, misrepresent or push yourself to be something you're not.
So we really appreciate you coming on. I'm going to ask you one final question. Are there any interesting, surprising, or upcoming shows that are kind of on the watch that we should really look out for when we go on the next cruise?
Yeah, well, last year we just unrolled a couple of new shows for the Carnival Vista. We're just really starting. Our director of show development is really starting to design the shows with the team for Horizon. And in 2019, we have another Vista class ship coming out, and then in 20 and 22, we have two more LNG ships coming out, first of their kind. But the entertainment offerings that we have from Vista, Flick, The Power of Motion Pictures, is an amazing show. America Rocks is our kind of new rock and roll show. If you cruised before, it's definitely Vroom, our show Vroom on steroids. It's definitely taken what we've had in our previous shows and really enhanced it. But there's a lot of really interesting things planned for Horizon. We just recently announced some of those new offerings this last couple of weeks. And there's still a lot more that are still in the works that we're keeping really secret right now. But Horizon's going to be a very impressive ship, same size pretty much as Vista, but everything's being created specifically for it. So from shows to the music acts to what we're offering, even down to food and beverage on the Horizon. So that is beginning of 2018.
I'm really much looking forward to the Horizon. I've been hearing so much from Bird and everyone else on Carnival. It sounds like it's going to be an amazing ship.
It certainly will be, and we're really excited for it. Our last ship that we brought out before Vista was 2012, was the Breeze, where we really started tailoring our entertainment offerings, and that was kind of the creation of Playlist Productions. And now that we have that foundation, and the ships are coming more frequent, we get to do a lot more and be a lot more creative as a company for what our guests really are looking for, because the industry is booming. All the cruise lines, have multiple ships ordered and are trying different markets around the world. So definitely a lot of new things going to be coming the way to all of our guests in the next couple of years on all of our new ships, as well as we're always enhancing the ships we currently have out in the fleet to make sure that they have the best in entertainment for our guests that maybe go into a fantasy class vessel, or a spirit class vessel, just to make sure that you really are enjoying yourself on your cruise, making sure we create memories for our guests. So you definitely want to come back, and we have enough shows in production where every time you cruise, you're going to see something new, for sure, within your experience.
Well, thank you so much, Adam, for coming on. We really appreciate it, and I know all of our fans and guests and everyone else love it as well.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
No problem. We'll see you later.
Have a good night.
So I want to let you know that this show and all the wonderful abilities we have to bring in guests remotely wouldn't be possible at the level that we do without vMix. vMix is a live production software that powers our live show and many other high-end productions, from church services to football games and more. Live productions run on vMix. What Producer Bird really liked when he was trying to improve our show was that they give you a full 60-day trial of everything. That way you can test it out risk-free, but before you buy it for 2 full months. Then they have systems starting from just $350. If you're going to do any sort of live series streaming, you need vMix. Try it out today at vmix.com. Our crazy complaint is served up today from the fine community at Cruise Critic, where I asked people what the craziest complaint they had was. We actually have a few tonight. A couple said that it was excellent service on the cruise, that they spent a lot more on tips than they expected, and wanted their gratuities to be refunded. I don't know about that. Like, whenever I go to a restaurant and I pay quite a bit, I kind of know and keep track of that. That's kind of silly to me. A pair expressed disappointment that their ship didn't look like the Titanic, and that's dissimilarity to the Doom ship that they would have made clear. Okay. A first-time cruise passenger blamed the captain for not warning him that he could get seasick and asked for a schedule of cruises in which he wouldn't get seasick. I don't understand what goes through some of these people's head when they ask these questions. Some of them seem so imperative before you go, but apparently it just doesn't click for everyone. So, Shally, have you recovered from the Diva cruise, and did you have a good time? Uh-oh.
I'm still trying to relive it. I still have my Diva cup from Patty's. She made all of us Divas. We got different colors and our names on them. So that's
nice. It's always nice when you have a lot of...
because I don't want to not be on the ballot.
So tell us about how many pairs of shoes you're able to fit into one cruise carry-on. I heard it was about 236 right now. So unfortunately, we're getting a slight echo.
Speak, Matt.
So How many
We've
pairs?
gone from 86 to 186 to 300.
How
I
many
can
do
buy
you
a few
normally
pairs of
fit?
shoes, but the thing is
Hmm.
involved, and they pack easy.
Hmm.
You know, sandals are easy to pack, so
I learned that it's good to bring at least two
I can
pairs.
fit about at least 15 pairs of shoes. I'll tell
Now, does that include 15
you. Did you
pairs of
say
shoes, two pairs of sandals, like dress shoes, and maybe like a pair of sneakers? Last cruise I was on, my sandals broke, and it kind of ruined a lot of different things for me, and I was pretty depressed because of that.
It's nice to have backups.
Hmm.
That's why I have at least, 14 pairs to choose from.
So tell us, how do you pack everything exactly? What is some packing tips that you have? Like, what should we bring and what should we avoid?
Well, basically, a long time ago in the group in CCPPF, we started a doc which has a basic packing list. And I mean, there's everything on there you could imagine. And of course, not everybody's going to need to bring all the same things. But I did print out a lot of information from carnival.com. Ask questions. One of them would be like, what are the must-have items? Like, what can't you go on your cruise without? And it's your boarding passes, your credit cards, your ID, your passports, your cash, and your insurance cards. Anything else can be bought. You forgot all of your luggage. But if you don't have those things, you're not getting on the cruise. So those are the must-haves, in my opinion, what you have to have no matter what, just to get on the ship. But then there's also a few things that I've learned over the years that to bring that I never thought of the first couple of cruises. I have them right here with me. One of them is like an old expired credit. Whatever, you're safe in your cabin. They want you to, not all, some of them have a digital code, but a lot of the ones now they're updating, and it's some sort of magnetic strip to swipe. And also some of the cabins in the newer, you need something to keep the light on, because otherwise it'll turn off all the time. So if you just keep the little card in there, it keeps the light on. Another thing is a $2 door. It's really hard to get, all of my luggage and all of my shoes into the cabin, keeping the door open with my booty. So this works great. You just stick it under the door. The cabin stewards have them, but they need them because they're cleaning cabins and everything. So you need your own, and it's great. Keep the door open. And then, of course, everybody knows, and if you won't know if you're a first-time cruiser, but there's one outlet in your cabin basically, and you need a non-surge protector, something like this, as long as it's a non-surge protector. Bird and I spoke earlier about the technical reason of why that is, and I'm going to try to break it down to you in non-tech, is that you just can't take them, okay? It messes with their wiring somehow. So don't take the that's the rule. So
I always see Bird taking at least 2 or 3 of the extension cords. Yeah, I'm still here, don't worry. I always see Bird taking a couple of them with me just because he has so many different things to plug in and charge and everything else, plus looking for my phone and laptop or everything else. He always brings like a handful of them. Is there anything else we should try to avoid bringing while on the ship?
Especially for you guys with all your equipment, all of your technical equipment. I know that you need even more, but just for me, I mean, my phone and my blow dryer, my hot rollers, I need some electricity. So,
yeah.
but anyway, non-surge protector is the way to go.
Nice. Oh yeah. So how do you think you can? Oh,
as
sorry.
far as the more like tips and things like that, is that where we're going? Do we have questions, or do you want me to just keep moving along with my notes, or?
We'll just keep moving on.
Okay. Well, the next thing would be like people a lot of times ask about what do I need to put in my checked luggage as compared to my carry-on luggage. And if you get faster to the fun or you're a platinum member and you have priority boarding, most of the time your luggage is going to be in your cabin and plenty of time for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Getting on the ship, some things you might want to have in your carry-on just in case your luggage doesn't arrive. Any of your important paperwork, you want to keep your airline tickets and everything close by, your wallet, any prescription medication, a change of clothes. They're pretty lenient in the dining room on the first night. They understand that a lot of people may not have their luggage. So, but it's nice to have something fresh to change into for dinner that first night if your luggage doesn't get there with you. Some of your personal toiletries, you're going to want to put, if you want to bring on some sodas, in the cans only. They don't allow anything in a bottle anymore. And also your bottle of wine per person. Cooler, of course, 12 by 12 by 12 only. That size basically for medical purposes that you have on you, in case your luggage didn't arrive on. So that was bit number 2. Do we have any questions?
So unfortunately, we're still getting a little bit of issues, technical side on Shally's part, but she definitely brought up a good point where you definitely want to make sure you bring in your prescriptions and your carry-on, of course, that bottle of wine per person if you're over 21, and actually an extra pair of clothes just in case your suitcase doesn't arrive. Now our photo of the week comes from the Carnival Magic Past, Present, and Future Facebook Cruise group, and it features Robin Medina with a cute little friend. This is a sloth for all of these who are unaware. If you have a fun photo, keep an eye on the Facebook groups you're in, and we might pick one each week to request photos from. Plus, definitely send us your photos to see our videos in the group, and you could be featured on the show. Now, we tease you at the top of the show about the exclusive visit to the ship's morgue and the ship's brig, plus we have a spine-chilling story about when one family decided that the dead should also enjoy one last cruise with the living. And I'm not talking about carrying someone's ashes on board either. Listen up as Jess from the US tells you about Weekend at Jackie's.
Hi Cruise Week TV, Jess from the US here on board the Carnival Triumph, and I'm joined with
your entertainment director Spencer.
Woo! Hello, and you've been seeing a few videos from our ship and been kind of filling you in on a little bit of information of what's going on. And we actually received a lot of comments on what is it like for the morgue and the brig.
Yes, kind of getting on the dark side of things, I guess you could say.
And it's really funny because we do a Q&A session every single cruise, and we always get that question. They're like,
is there a morgue on board, or where do the bad people go, or where do the dead people go if and when it happens?
Yes, and we've actually never seen either one, so we contacted our chief security. Is like, we want to go see, so we can share with you.
Let's check it out.
Let's check it out. So it was really cool. We actually went down to both the morgue and the brig, and they're actually right next to each other.
And it's kind of weird. Like you would watch like a crime show on TV, and you see the morgue, and of course we all know what a jail cell looks like. So we're like, how do they incorporate that onto a cruise ship?
Yeah, but it's my favorite part that the actual door out on there's a title for the door, so it says morgue and it says.
It's kind of creepy. It's kind of like, oh wow, you don't know what's going to be on the other side of the door.
Yeah, but I also promised you to tell you our best story, and We have a Q&A session every single cruise, and a few cruises back we had our senior physician Jackie on board, and someone asked her, what's the weirdest medical thing you've ever seen? And her story was just absolutely amazing, and just the way she told it was just...
We're going to remember it for a long time.
We're going to remember it. We even nicknamed this story, and it's called Weekend at Jackie's, so brace yourself.
If you're familiar with, I guess, movie trivia, this might jump out a little bit to you. So what happened was Jackie was on a cruise. I think it was a week-long cruise out of Miami, if I'm not mistaken. And right after sailing, about 3 or 4 hours after sailing, they got a notification for a medical response team to go check out a guest stateroom. And based on the code that was used in the announcement, it was a thought that the person potentially had passed away. So they went to check in, and it turns out it was an older woman. She had brought her family on for a cruise. They were planning this cruise for a long time. I guess they had some family mishmash and clashes now and again, so they thought, Grandma thought this would be a good time to bring the family all together and have a nice family vacation and just focus on fun. But unfortunately, she passed away within a few hours of joining the ship. So they went ahead and, I guess for lack of a better term, zipped her up and went through all the protocols to get her all taken care of inside the morgue. But after that was all done, Jackie was doing like the paperwork to submit to our corporate partners and our medical team to make sure they could process all the information that we had. And in that report, we had to include a photo. So we always include the photo that's used when you come on board a cruise ship, where you take a picture and it's used for your
sail and sign card.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when looking at the picture, using Jackie's expert medical opinion, it appeared that this woman may have already been dead before coming on board, which was rather shocking when we heard that.
And Jackie did it so perfect. She was just like, that's what Grandma looked like in her wheelchair. And I was just like, the question is, did the family know she was dead before boarding? So
when Jackie followed up with the family and said, hey, do you have any indication she may have passed away prior, or what was your thought? And they said, Grandma just really wanted us to be together for this vacation. So we thought we would bring her with us, and this is how she would want it. So they didn't admit to it, but it sounded like they may have known a little something was up.
And Weekend at Jackie's.
Have you ever seen Weekend at Bernie's, where they carry around their dead friend for a little while? Very similar situation here. But at the end of the day, they always have the option to leave the ship early, so in the next port, to take care of all the arrangements and funeral or anything like that. But they decided, nope, this is how Grandma wants it. So Grandma chilled out with us in the morgue while the family enjoyed a nice week-long cruise.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very weird medical story, and it's actually really weird that Jackie, our senior physician, she doesn't have a key to the morgue.
No.
So it was like our senior refrigeration officer, so we had to call him to get the key to let us look in the morgue, and we can hold 3. We can hold 3 people in our morgue.
We can hold 3 people. So you walk in and you see like those drawers, or you would think you would see those drawers like you see on like a crime TV show.
Not like that. Yeah.
Not like at all. Just like a jumbo-sized refrigerator, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah, and it's like cruise ship bunk beds for the morgue. Because you just pull down the little thing.
Just big metal walls. You can see it has a little thermostat in there to show you what the temperature is. But when we were in there, it wasn't on. Because thankfully we didn't have to see any dead people.
Yeah. So that was a morgue. Yeah. And then right next to the morgue is the brig. And like I said, the doors have titles. Like you can clearly say it's called the brig. So we went to the brig and we had a meeting with our chief of security. And basically, as I mentioned in the last video, the only time people go to the brig is if they're like a harm to themselves or others, because if there's a security incident, more than likely we'll confine the guest to their cabin. We'll put security outside the door.
Right. It's when they start to destroy their cabin, or maybe they're trying to break through their cabin or try and harm themselves in any way. That's when we need to take the next step and actually bring them to the brig. Luckily, I've never witnessed that. I don't know if you...
Yeah, no, I've never... I mean, we don't get the security reports at the end of the night, which would be really entertaining if we did. I don't want to know what goes on our ship after hours. Absolutely, like after 2 a.m., it's always a bad decision, right?
It's the truth. But so we took a look inside, and again, we didn't know what to really expect, because we all seen what a jail cell looks like with the big bars and... But it was nothing quite like that, was it?
It was all padded, and then you can definitely see that it's clearly a self-harm issue, that people are causing harm to themselves, so they need to make sure they're safe. So everything's padded.
It's almost like what you would see in one of those insane asylums where they wear like the straight jackets and the big cushy rooms. Very similar to that, and a little bed off in the corner.
Yeah, and actually that's a good reference to our previous guest who was in that brig. He actually tried to escape. So he was like clawing at the pad, like trying to like go through the light, and like he could have even like electrocuted himself. I
Yeah.
guess.
So he was trying to rip through all the cushioning and like
Yeah,
climb out
so,
through the
like-
ceiling, I think.
So real Prison Break stuff.
But it would have been kind of funny because the nearest
Where would he
room,
been?
the room next door is the morgue, so he would have just ended up there.
Yeah, I was like,
And I wouldn't imagine you'd be able to open that from the inside.
yeah, no. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if it like kind of ruins the mystery of it all,
Yeah.
but now you know the morgue and the Brig stories here, and if we hear any good ones, I'll be continue
We'll
to
be
fill
sure
you
to follow
in.
up,
Yeah. But thanks for checking in with us, and now hopefully your questions of the morgue and the Brig are all set, and you'll enjoy the photos as well. So
And we can't wait to see what crazy things you guys can think of and ask next.
yeah. So have a great day out there in land.
Wow, I guess one family decided to make sure they got their money's worth of Grandma's ticket. And what did you think about the inside of the morgue and the Brig? Hopefully, I never have to visit either one on any of my next coming cruises. We have an exciting competition with some amazing prizes coming up next week, and it really is easy to enter, but more about that in next week's show. Just be ready to win some nice cruise things. We live stream on many platforms. Facebook is one, YouTube of course, but also Periscope, and I want to thank Kathy from RSC's Periscopes group for handling all of the other stuff that goes on in the chat room and keeping order over there. If you want to see a lot of live streams from people on ships, head over to RC Periscopers group on Facebook for a list. If you like our shows, you may want to consider joining our Cruise Week Inner Circle. You can find out more by going to cruiseweek.tv/support, and with your support, it helps bring us closer, great videos and guests each week, and helps us raise money to bring 5 more new cruisers on the trip of a lifetime. So head over to cruiseweek.tv/support to see all that we have to offer on there. Next week, Joe is back with Matt from Royal Caribbean Blog and another fun quest. So be sure to like and share and subscribe our videos. That way you don't miss any of the great videos that we post. Talking about video posts, did you see the one that Zach did with the piano player Russell? It turned out to be a very eye-opening and insightful one. If you haven't watched it, go to cruiseweek.tv, the website, and watch. Remember, if you know someone that will enjoy watching the show as much as you do, be nice and share the link to their Facebook wall. So guys, that pretty much wraps up the show. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, go to our YouTube and subscribe over there. It really helps us out. And as always, we'll see you on the ships.